This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and I'm pleased to say that we've got the Council Leader of Guildford Borough Council, Councillor Julia McShane, with us this morning. Good morning, Councillor McShane. Thank you very much for giving this interview to the Guildford Dragon.
Good morning, Martin. Happy to be with you.
Right, if we could start off with our lead story at the moment is about the latest government U-turn on the local government reorganisation.
Mm.
What's your view of, I mean, you're on the committee that's looking at shaping the new unitary council, but what is your personal view or your party's view of this reorganisation? Was it necessary at this time, do you think?
Um, well, I mean, the government clearly think it's necessary, and we did all the work that was required last year to go through the process to put forward proposals. And as you know, we were supportive of the proposal to have three unitary authorities, but the government have decided they know better and that we're going to have two.
Okay.
So that's what we're all working very hard to try to put our residents first as we're going through the process to make that happen.
But I looked up the Lib Dem manifesto that you had in your campaign in the last general election, and there wasn't anything there. It just said strengthen local democracy, including introducing proportional representation. So it wasn't Lib Dem policy to have this type of reorganisation. Is that correct?
Yeah, as I said, it's the government that is pushing for this kind of reorganisation,
But what do you think
and
about that? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think from the perspective of residents, it's we often find that obviously people get confused between which services are being dealt with by a district or borough council and which services are being dealt with by the county council. So to have a unitary council which covers all of those services will help residents. You know, when there's a pothole that needs fixing, or somebody's got an issue with housing repair, for instance,
Yeah.
they just need to know where to go to get that resolved.
Okay.
So it probably will simplify things in that regard for residents.
Okay. So that will be a big advantage of having a unitary.
Well, I think for residents, it just makes it clearer, doesn't it?
Yes.
Who's responsible for what?
Okay, and do you think that setting up this new unitary authority by May 2027, if I'm correct, do you think that's achievable?
I think it's a ridiculously short timescale that the government, obviously supported by the Conservatives leading Surrey County Council, have effectively forced onto us. But as I said before, you know, we've been working together as councils across Surrey to ensure that the transition to the first day of the new unitary ensures that, you know, the council will be safe and legal, that the services will continue uninterrupted, and that we continue putting residents at the heart of everything we do, because that's what we're here to do.
But can you imagine that there'll be one place for residents to go online, for instance, once May 2027 arrives? Or will they
What do you
still
mean
have to?
by?
Well, because there'll be the challenge, won't there, of bringing together all the existing websites and IT systems between the different councils. Do you think that's achievable by that date?
I think it's a huge challenge. And as I said, you know, we're currently at the beginning of the process to transition from 11, 12 different councils to two unitary councils for the whole of Surrey. And it is going to be a huge challenge. But as I said before, we've got to make sure that the council is ready on day one to continue to provide safe and legal services to everybody, from my perspective in West Surrey, of course. So, you know, we're going to have to do that. And as I said before, it's a massive challenge. And in the timescale that we've been given, it is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work in the IT in the Home Office, and I just can't imagine that being feasible because you've got such, so many disparate systems to bring together. And even within, let's face it, even within Guildford Borough Council, there have been problems about systems not talking to each other. So to achieve that by next year, I think is, well, you've admitted it's a huge challenge. But anyway, I can only wish whoever's involved the best of luck, I suppose. But there's
Right.
one crucial issue, I think, that does resonate with residents is what's going to happen to all the debt that we're taking on from other borough councils and some from the county council too. We still don't seem to have an answer from the government on that, do we? Not a full answer anyway.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I can absolutely understand that residents across, particularly West Surrey, are really concerned about that. And I think it's important that we all recognise that. And so far, the government has contributed, I think it's about £500 million
Yeah.
debt support to Woking Borough Council. But at the moment, we're at the sort of stage where, at the recent joint committee meeting that we had, my colleagues were really strong on asking for as much information as possible, financial information, to be able to start with a baseline so we understand the true extent of what the new unitary councils are going to be dealing with. And I think it is an enormous problem. And I can't see a way that a unitary authority obviously needs to be viable on day one. And I don't see a way that the government can continue to expect residents across West Surrey or East Surrey or wherever the most debt is in West Surrey to pay for that. There's going to have to be more support.
Yes, and we're only months away from the elections for the new unitary, and we still don't know.
No, and I think there's lots of conversations going on. I know our MPs across Surrey are, particularly in West Surrey, are doing a great deal in Parliament on this issue. And, it's something we're going to have to continue to be having those conversations about.
I mean, I think where residents will get particularly angry is if assets in one borough are sold to meet debts that have been inherited from another. Would you agree?
And I think it's a really pertinent question. And I think the issue will be, of course, that we're going to be in a situation where with the West Surrey Unitary, that Unitary Council will be a council that serves people from Hazelmere in the south all the way up to Staines in the north, and all of those residents are going to become residents of one council. And yeah, as we've said, the issue of how to deal with the debt is still so uncertain. And yeah, I think there are going to be some very difficult challenges for the councillors who are elected in May to take on the new council, the unitary council.
And another aspect of this, isn't it, that the government, the Labour Party who formed the government, they have nothing to lose in Surrey because they don't have much of a stake down here. So even if they do something that's unpopular, they haven't got a big price to pay.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Okay, well, thank you for your views on that. That's interesting. If we could move on to housing. Now, you're the,
Yeah.
sorry.
I said yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
was just agreeing with you.
Okay, right. Now, you're the lead councillor for housing at Guildford Borough Council. How would you describe that role? What are your responsibilities there?
Well, obviously, as the lead councillor, and as the leader of the council and with our administration, we set the strategic direction for the council. So obviously, we've got our corporate strategy, which we introduced in 2024, which has a number of strategic priorities, one of which is decent and affordable housing. So I'm, involved in making sure that the actions from the housing improvement plan are addressed, which they are. And I think next week at our council meeting, we're going to have the third of the update reports from the independent assurance panel that have been working with us for the last 2 years to show the huge amount of progress that has been undertaken in the housing service. Obviously, there's still more to do. We understand that. It's a 3-year programme, but there has been an enormous amount of work done in the housing service to make those improvements. And I'm really proud. The team have worked incredibly hard. And yeah, I'm very proud to be the lead member for housing.
Okay, now you mentioned that one of your responsibilities there is to provide strategic direction. But I looked up the role of a lead councillor, did an internet search, and it says as well as that, to ensure effective service delivery, working closely with officers to set policy and manage budgets, and they act as the public face of the administration, chair meetings, etc. That's a fair description, would you say, of your responsibilities?
Yes, it is, and I think as well you can add to that that not just as a portfolio holder, but as the administration and as an executive and council as well. Those different areas of the council provide the challenge and the scrutiny and the governance as well, not just for the housing service, but for all the services that we deliver to our residents.
Okay, and you mentioned on the strategy that I think you said providing affordable homes was one of the key elements of it.
Yeah, I said that one of our strategic priorities is decent and affordable homes, yes. But obviously, with the affordable homes part of that, we can take some responsibility and move forward delivering council homes, which we are. We've got the Guildford Park Road site application, I think, is coming to planning committee fairly shortly. And as part of that, there will be 99 council owned and managed homes, which will be able to provide people from our housing register the opportunity to have a home in the centre of town.
Okay, now according to the GBC published housing strategy, there are four main pillars, it seems to me, of that strategy. You've mentioned providing houses. What are the others?
Obviously, we've got decent and affordable homes, I said, was part of our strategy.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of work going on at the moment around we're just about to bring forward our housing asset management strategy, which will
right.
set out all the work that needs to be done. I think it's over a 30-year period,
Yes.
to obviously ensure that we currently have a small number of homes that don't meet the decent home standard, but the
Right.
work that we're going to be doing, along with the budget that's just been agreed recently, will be ensuring that all of our homes will be meeting the decent home standard by the end of this year.
Okay, and the other two pillars, I'll remind you, are to prevent homelessness and rough sleeping, and to improve housing options, opportunities, and choice. But if we go back to that one about providing council housing,
Yeah,
we have 2,000 people on the housing waiting list, I understand, roughly.
I think so, roughly, yes.
And in 2019, your party promised they'd build 3,000 council houses over 10 years. How many have you built?
That was a long time ago. And I think
Yeah,
since then, obviously, I mean, that was quite an ambitious thing to say back then. And it's good to be ambitious, but obviously at that point, we didn't have any idea that following the following year, we'd have COVID, and then we'd have other issues around the economy and the cost of living crisis and the huge increase in interest rates, and obviously the situation that we've been dealing with more recently in the housing service that's currently being investigated by the police. So it's been incredibly
but when
challenging. But as I said, we've got the application for Guildford Park Road coming in quite soon, and also we continue to progress the very complex but very necessary Wayside Urban Village development, which is going to also provide housing as part of that over the next few years. So and we've got a portfolio of small sites that we're going to bring forward housing on, council housing. So there are plans in place to bring forward
but the
new
promise for
opportunities.
3,000 council houses was ridiculous, wasn't it? I mean that there was no, you hadn't thought about how you're going to get the land, the funding. It was just plucked out of the air because you didn't really think that you were going to be so successful at that election. That's the truth, isn't it?
And I think it's incredible when you think the situation back in 2019 with the local plan being rushed through just before the election, and how the then Conservative administration paid the price for that. And then what's happened since, with obviously us taking control of the council in 2023 and having that opportunity to be able to push forward with plans to
But
develop more council homes, which is what we said in the run up to those elections. We said that we would sort the finances out of the council. Two, we said we would protect public services, which we have done. And obviously, affordable housing was really important to us, and that's what we've been doing over the last few years to be
so
able
how
to
many have you
put in
built?
place plans. Well, a lot of the affordable homes that would
No,
be
I'm talking
part
about
of that.
council houses. Council houses. That's what you promised.
Well, I think we said affordable homes, didn't we?
No,
But
you
that's a
said
long time ago.
3,000 council houses. I'm sure that that's how they were described. And I spoke to Jan Harwood after he switched to the Conservative Party, I must say. He told me that that promise was always regarded as a joke within the group, and it was just there to try and attract votes.
I think what's important, and I can understand why you're wanting to go back to the past, Martin, but I think I'm really interested in where we are now and where the council is now and what we're actually delivering for residents now, around the improvements that we're making to services, that we've managed to stop the council from being bankrupt 2 years ago, and we've now set balanced budgets. And as I said earlier, that we've got plans in place for the delivery of council houses, which, depending on what happens at the planning committee when the application comes forward for Guildford Park Road, which is going to be providing council homes, that, hopefully, if that is approved, then that development could start as early as the end of this year. So that's really good news for people who are on the waiting list,
Okay, but why I
because there
wanted
are
to
going
go,
to be those homes available.
well, why I wanted to go back to that is because people don't trust politicians. And one of the
Yeah.
reasons they don't trust politicians is because they make promises they don't keep. It's important to keep your promises, isn't it?
I think it's obviously important to be able to be realistic about what is
Well, that
achievable.
wasn't
And I think,
realistic, was it? 3,000, that was just the opposite of realistic. It was cloud cuckoo
I
land.
think when we were elected in 2023, one of the things we said, or some of the things we said before we were elected, was that we would fix the finances and that we would protect public services. And I'm very proud that in the last couple of weeks, we've shown that we have done that. And you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of misinformation around at the moment. But I think, given that we've done what we said we would do 2 years ago, that we are on that journey to earn people's trust, and we can show that what we said we'd do, we have done. And I think, as I said, we've got the plans in place to deliver more council homes as well.
Okay, but you talked about misinformation. I hope you're not saying that I'm peddling misinformation here. I'm going on what I know to be the record and asking you about that. I
Yeah,
don't know what
and I,
misinformation you're referring to now.
I'm talking about the current environment that we're in, where there is a lot of misinformation by
What you
there. And
mean,
I'm
social media, etc.
well, you said people don't trust politicians. So I
Yes.
think it's really important that for those of us that are in a position to say what we want to do, as we did in 2023, to fix the council's finances and to protect public services, to now 2 years later, it is only 2 years since we were in a position where the council was going to be having to declare a Section 114 notice, and we've
Okay.
now moved the finances to a place where we've set a 2 year balanced budget. Our reserves are very healthy. And we've done all of that without cutting any services, which is what we said we would do.
Okay, but
And
I
I
was
hope
asking
that
you
that reassures
specifically
people.
about council houses. Anyway, thank you for
Yeah.
those answers. And if we could go on to the housing revenue situation then, because you oversaw the whole housing revenue area during as the portfolio holder for housing. Um, Everyone since the debacle, since the overspend, the huge overspend was discovered, I think everyone in the management chain below you has now been either dismissed, suspended, or has resigned. Why did the accountability stop when it came to you and your responsibility?
You will recall that, I think 2 years ago, maybe, or maybe a year ago, I can't remember, when we had the Solace reports, and then we also had the Hemmensley Law report. And you interviewed me after that came out, I recall. And I said that we needed to rebuild residents' trust. We needed to make the improvements that needed to be made in the housing service. And obviously, a year or two on, the current performance indicators and the performance report that the council brought to overview and scrutiny recently has shown that we have made the improvements necessary. And as I said to you before, part of that was improving the council's finances and financial controls and the governance to make sure that we had a robust and well managed and resilient council. And again, that's part of the journey of improvement that we're on to win back the trust of our residents, because it is the residents that we're here to serve. They are at the
Can't you
heart
see
of
that it looks
everything we
odd
do.
that everyone in that chain has had to pay the price except you?
As I said to you, I think at the time, that this isn't about me. This is about our
But
residents, and
you
it's
had the
about.
responsibility for overseeing the housing revenue budget, didn't you?
No, I didn't. And as I said before, when we spoke earlier, you said about what the portfolio holder's responsibilities are
Yeah.
to work with council officers to make improvements to the services and make sure those services are run well. And you've read the Solace reports, you've read the Hemmersley Law report,
Yeah.
and you know that we have made enormous progress. And I hope that you will be reading the latest of the Independent Assurance Panel's reports, which again show that we continue to make really good progress.
But that definition of the role of lead councillor, it said to set policy and manage budgets. What questions were you asking at the time to check that everything was under control? I mean, it may have been that people below you, but didn't you feel any responsibility for the system being so poor that no one knew this was happening?
As I said before, when we commissioned the Solace reports after this situation was identified and we knew about it, the Solace reports clearly showed that historically the council had not been in a particularly healthy, well run state, and that's why we set about acknowledging that situation. You have to acknowledge where you are so that you can move forward and make the improvements that are necessary. And we did that openly and transparently. And we are now in a place where we can demonstrate that all the actions that we have undertaken to this point have taken us away from that historical place all those years ago, and we're now in a much better place, and we will continue to make those improvements through the rest of that improvement journey.
Okay, but you had been the portfolio holder for 5 years, I think, but when this happened. So
no, that's not the case. We've had this conversation before. I became the portfolio holder, I think, in early 2021.
Okay, all right. Well then,
I'm
sorry, go on.
I'm still very proud to be the portfolio holder, because it's working with the officers in the last few years that we have been able to make the improvements to the housing service that have been so desperately needed. I've been a councillor for 15 years, and in that time, I've been dealing with people who have not received the service that I've wanted them to receive. And we're now in a place where we've made those improvements. We're moving, tenant satisfaction measures recently have shown that there has been an improvement in tenant satisfaction with the housing service, but there's still more to do. And that's the really important thing. There is still more to do. And I'm absolutely determined, as I said 2 years ago, to be working hard to make sure we continue making those improvements.
Okay, so
and I'm doing that
that
as the lead member for housing.
Right, in line with that, then what action have you personally taken to expedite the internal investigations regarding the overspend that have been going on now for years? Do you think you've done everything in your power to make sure they came to their findings as soon as possible?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but obviously, as I mentioned to you earlier, the right thing was
Well,
done.
if you don't know what I mean, let me explain then. It is important,
Yes,
isn't it, for
please.
those investigations to be completed as quickly as possible so that any corrective action can be taken and so that any people that are culpable can be brought to book. That's important, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why at the very beginning, when the Solace reports came, well, before the Solace reports, that the situation was referred to the police, and they continue to investigate that issue. And obviously, the Solace reports and the Hemsley Law report were also part of the movement to be able to move forward and make the improvements that were necessary, as I said, so that we are at the position we're in now, where things are greatly improved in the housing service.
But it's
Uh,
taking an age, isn't it?
what's taking an age?
All these investigations. I mean, we've had a whole series of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, the police do tend to
No, I'm
take a
not talking
long
about the
time to
police.
make their
I'm not talking
investigations.
about the police one. I'm talking about the internal council ones.
The most important people in this whole situation are our tenants, leaseholders, and residents. And as
Okay.
I said to you before, it's really important that those people are confident in the service that they're being provided, that they're safe, and that their homes are well maintained. And we are doing everything that is needed to be able to make sure our homes are compliant. We're at 100% compliance now. We've recently had the regulator for social housing come into the council and do an inspection, and we're hoping to hear the outcome of that very shortly. But we are in a much better place. And I mentioned the tenant satisfaction measures. They've all improved, all of them have improved. So
Okay.
the evidence is there to show that what we're doing is actually making a difference to
Okay.
people.
Now,
And
time
it's
time
our
is
tenants and residents that are most important.
time is pressing, so I just want to get onto the last
Mm,
area now, and that's the recent well the cabinet sorry, the executive reshuffles you've had. Now, obviously,
yes.
selecting people for the executive is one of the jobs of the council leader. Um, going back last May, you dismissed George Potter from the executive. Why was that?
You're right. As part of being the leader of the council, it's part of the constitution that the leader can make changes to the executive when they feel it's necessary to do so. And that's what I've done in recent
But
times.
why?
And I
Why?
think I probably,
What was George doing wrong, or what was the reason that you felt he shouldn't be on the executive anymore?
well, whenever I make changes to the executive, it's for a variety of reasons, and I think that that's the right thing to do. And I think at the moment we've now got a very strong executive that will take us through from this point in time right through to the end
Okay,
of
you're
the
not
Borough
answering the
Council.
question though. You're not telling me why you thought he should go. I mean, he said that that he ran against you in your internal group leadership elections, and that was mentioned when you spoke to him when you dismissed him from the executive.
I can't comment on what George said to you, I'm afraid,
Well, you
can
can
I
comment on
don't
it.
know.
Is it true?
Well, I can't. Well, if that's what he said to you, that's his perspective. But as I said to
But
you
is it true that
before,
you mentioned it?
to be honest, Martin, it's ages ago, and I don't
All right.
recall. I'm now at a place where I've made changes to the executive this year. As a council, we've just, you know, approved a 2-year balanced budget. We've done it without cutting any services. We're
Okay,
making improvements to the
but
housing
you're
service. These are
deflecting
really
onto another
important things.
area now. I want to continue just on this reshuffle, because then in December, two members left all of a sudden without any any sign of them doing, any warning that we're going to do so publicly anyway. When did they tell you they needed to leave? Did you have any notice?
Yes, of course. I mean, as a team, we talk about things. Of course, we do.
Okay,
But the
so if
point
you
is, I
had
think the
notice, why
important
didn't
thing.
you have the replacements lined up ready to? Because I mean, there were two key roles, the deputy leader and the finance leader. Why didn't you have people ready to slot straight in?
Well, I think sometimes you have to take stock, and I think that was an important time to take stock. But I think you must have missed the statement that came from the council, which indicated why Councillor Hunt and Councillor Lucas felt that they wanted to step down at that particular time. It was just around Christmas time as well, so there was a lot going on. But I think the important thing to remember is that as
I don't remember
councillors,
the statement saying they're giving their reasons for wanting to leave.
Well, yeah, there was a statement given by the council and by myself, because as I was about to go on to say before you interrupted me, that councillors are volunteers. Many of them have day jobs. I mean, I don't. I give all of my time to this role that I have, and we have to remember that when people feel that they want to prioritise their day job, if they've taken on extra responsibilities, or if they want to make changes to what they're doing, then it's only right that we should listen and make that possible for them to do. And I'm enormously grateful to everybody that has been able to commit huge amounts of time to being on the executive, to helping this administration to get to the point that we're now at, where we've made this, all these improvements.
Okay.
And
Now, coming
yeah.
to the most recent change, you dismissed Catherine
Mm.
Houston in the middle of January. Why did you do that?
Again, as I said, I was taking stock of where we were with the executive, and felt that I wanted to make some changes to the portfolios. And unfortunately, at that point, Catherine left the executive.
She did, but she didn't. Well, she said that she didn't leave. That you told her she wasn't on it anymore.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And I know Catherine, obviously, when leaders change their executives and it's making difficult decisions, obviously not everybody is happy about that, and I totally understand that. But it's really important that, as I've
But
said,
she
I
deserved the.
acknowledge.
I mean, other people, even opposition councillors I've spoken to, have recognised Councillor Houston's ability and her dedication. And I mean, there was the best attender in the recent check we made. It, it is very puzzling as to why you thought that you didn't want her on the executive anymore.
Just picking up on the recent article that you did about attendance, I mean, I would just add that there are a number of councillors who have 100% attendance as well. But as I said before, you
Well,
have to
we took
recognise.
our information from the Guildford Borough Council website. So if that's incorrect, then
But
that's not
as
really.
But as I was just about to say, what's really important to recognise is that councillors give huge amounts of their time to this role to serve the residents of Guildford Borough, and that we should be. I'm enormously grateful to people who do that and who've served on the executive, and and I have the difficult decisions and choices to make about who's on the executive and what the portfolios are at any given time. And
Okay.
I feel that over the time that I've been the leader, I'm content with the executives that I've had and the changes that I've made for various reasons.
But don't you think
Because
she was? She says that you didn't give her a reason for her dismissal. Is she right?
I, I think it's really important that we don't discuss individuals in this forum. Of course, conversations were had and continue to be had, but I'm not going to discuss the details of those. That's not the right thing to do. But what is the right thing to do is to focus on getting on with what we're doing, continuing to make the improvements to the council that we set out to do and that we absolutely committed to residents that we would be doing, and moving forward into the local government reorganisation and to the new unitary. It's really important that we take the opportunity to make sure that all of the things we've put in place in Guildford Borough Council and
You have
working with
made these
Waverley
points
Borough
now
Council.
numerous times in this
Yes,
interview,
because they're
but
very important,
I'm
Martin.
sure they are. But my question's about Catherine Houston and her dismissal. Her point is that you didn't explain why she was being dismissed. Now, I'm not asking you to give. You might not want to give the detail of those reasons, but don't you think she at least deserves in a meeting to be told why she was dismissed?
Yes, and I believe that I did do that.
Okay, so you don't agree that she wasn't given the reasons.
Well, I always try to sit down with people and to talk about the decisions that I'm making, and why I'm making them. And as I acknowledged before, it's very difficult to make those decisions and to have those conversations. Yeah.
Okay, but do you accept that there's a legitimate public interest in the way that you select people for your executive and the way that you and why you dismissed them?
I think it's really important to recognise that the people that are on the executive at any given time, and executives do change over time, but they do give a huge amount of time to that role. They take it very
No, but
seriously, and
you're
they
not
make
answering
huge.
the question, Julia. Sorry. Do you accept there's a public interest here?
Well, look, I've been told that there's a public interest, but I've seen some of the articles that were published around the time of the changes, and there weren't lots and lots of comments, and I certainly haven't been approached by people to to suggest that there is a huge amount of public interest. I think there's more public interest in what the council's achieving and making sure
But
that
you're
the
mixing up
council's well
what
run.
you're mixing up what the public is interested in, because more people buy the Sun than they do the Times, and what what the public interest is. The public interest is linked to exposing what is important in our government, in our democracy, in the way we run our society. That is the public interest here.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think that the public interest is in the results of how we do those things. And I've already said that as an
Sorry, it's
administration,
not
we've
for you
been.
to define that, really. I think my questions are quite legitimate and in the public interest. And I would say that you have a duty as under the Nolan principles to answer those questions.
The Nolan principles are something that I know well, and they are the way that I think I conduct my self, and lots of other councillors in the council do the very same thing.
Okay, and
Yes,
two of those are
absolutely.
honesty
Yeah.
and openness, and that's what I'm asking for here, because I think a lot of people, there are people interested in how the councils run. I know that not enough, in my view, too, are interested, because it is our local government. But I'm just anxious that people understand, in the councillors understand, their what accountability means when it comes to media interviews.
Yeah, and I
Questions.
think I am being open and honest, and I think the council is open and honest and transparent, and we've shown that we are because of all the things that we have been dealing with in the last few years that we've brought to the public. We've invited you. We know we've had press briefings. The press have been into the council. We are very open and transparent about everything we're doing, and the evidence is there for everybody to see. So, yeah, I think we are.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we've run out of time now, Councillor McShane, but thank you very
Okay,
much for your time and for
it's a
answering my
pleasure.
questions. And yeah, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Martin.